Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering woke colleges in crisis as diversity, equity, and inclusion gets removed. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from the Daily Caller, judge suspends California community colleges diversity, equity, and inclusion rules. And coming from Wisconsin, campus diversity programs targeted as legal and political battles escalate. From the Daily Caller, a federal judge suspended the enforcement of the California community colleges diversity, equity, and inclusion rules on Tuesday, according to court documents. The DEI rules evaluated if employees had, quote, demonstrated or progressed toward proficiency in diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, according to a memo from California community colleges leaders. U.S. Magistrate Judge Christopher D. of the Eastern District of California suspended the enforcement of the rules, saying they might be contrary to the First Amendment, according to the injunction. Quote, although defendants aim of promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in California's system of community colleges undoubtedly is important and defendants are entitled to encourage their employees to embrace these tenets, plaintiff has shown a likelihood of success on the merits that the regulatory scheme defendants have put in place to advance these interests is contrary to the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of speech in the academic arena, the injunction reads. Bakersfield Community College professor Damon Johnson filed the lawsuit in June and alleged that his colleague, Matthew Garrett, had been terminated for expressing his political beliefs. The lawsuit asked for an injunction against the rules, and they got an injunction. Quote, we strongly disagree with the recommendation by the magistrate and will have a more detailed response within the next 14 days, the California Community College's Chancellor's Office told the Daily Caller News Foundation. Quote, it is well established that faculty and staff proficient in diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility creates a safer, more inclusive, and more effective learning environment for all students in a system as large and diverse as the California community colleges. A separate case argues a similar case against the California community colleges DEI rules. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression sued California on behalf of 6 professors in August to stop the state from forcing them to incorporate DEI rules in the classroom. The 6 professors alleged that the rules forced them to espouse, quote, anti-racist concepts while teaching, which violates their First and 14th Amendment rights. Several Republican-led states have signed legislation banning DEI or inquired into its use in public universities. Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a bill in June banning the use of funding of DEI at public universities, and Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a similar bill in May. South Carolina's Republican legislature initiated an inquiry into DEI at colleges in the state, and Arkansas did the same, which resulted in the University of Arkansas preemptively shuttering its DEI offices. Campus diversity programs targeted as legal and political battles escalate. A stalemate over raises for universities of Wisconsin employees is part of a broader fight. In June, the Wisconsin legislature approved pay increases for the 34,000 employees of the universities of Wisconsin. Months later, Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos said legislators wouldn't give final approval for the pay raises until the university system eliminates 188 positions. All the university system's jobs, Vos claims, are dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Last month, a GOP-controlled committee affirmed the decision. The approved raises would go to all state employees except those who work within the university system. In response, Governor Tony Evers sued the legislature, calling the move an unconstitutional legislative veto. The ongoing debate represents an escalation in a decades-old debate about how universities should promote diversity within their student bodies, in campus programming, and among faculty. And it comes as universities are still reacting to the June decision by the U.S. Supreme Court barring the consideration of race in student admissions. Records show conservative activists have called for lawmakers to, quote, apply pressure to the UW in hopes of driving change on topics like student-free speech, making conservative students feel more welcome on campus, and the elimination of DEI. As Republicans are ramping up attacks, it's left some students and many within the university system uncertain about what campus diversity policies will look like in the future. At the Republican Party of Wisconsin State Convention last June, 11 days before the Supreme Court's decision striking down affirmative action in admissions, Voss said DEI stands for division, exclusion, and indoctrination, and claimed DEI programming represents, quote, overt racism in higher education. The conservative activist law firm Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty has published a list of government and university programs it claims amount to racial discrimination. Those include scholarships, teacher loans, and health equity grants. Republican lawmakers have introduced a bill specifying state financial aid programs can no longer consider a student's race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, or religion. A spokesperson for Democratic Governor Tony Evers said he's likely to veto that legislation. Why would you veto something like that? UW System President Jay Rothman defended the university's diversity programs during a state Senate hearing in June. Rothman said DEI initiatives are wide-ranging and include efforts to get more women into science and engineering fields and help returning veterans with their transition to college life. Quote, those are all issues that DEI covers, said Rothman. I think those are important things not only for the state to ensure that we have enough graduates coming in, but it's also that those are the right things to do for society. No one who runs a college system should be making decisions on how society should be run. That's for the politicians to do. They're supposed to have legitimate elections, people get a chance to vote, and through political and legislative means, decisions are made about what's good for society on a local level. It's not for the guy who gets to run the college system to make decisions about what's good for society or not. At a freshman orientation event in August, students and parents at UW Parkside watched a video welcoming them to campus. It opened with students and staff members repeating the word diversity while talking about the campus's goal of helping students of all backgrounds succeed through graduation. Students then walked to a classroom for a quiz that included questions about the definition of DEI and tips on accessing resources like the Campus Multicultural Center. For new students, such as freshman Aya Young of Milwaukee, the controversy surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion is all a little confusing. Quote, I just don't understand why they would be so upset about it, Young said. Young said she's thinking about becoming a child psychologist and chose Parkside because it seemed like an inclusive campus. While some Republicans and conservative groups claim DEI programs aimed at providing financial or advising assistance to students from underrepresented groups amount to racial discrimination, Young doesn't see it that way. Well, when you're picking different groups and you're choosing them based on race, it is racial discrimination by definition. There's no other way to calculate that. There's no other way to describe it. Quote, I don't think that is racial preference, Young said. I think that is racial appreciation. Certain races are appreciated a little bit more than other races. I mean, that is racist. Another UW Parkside freshman, Kayla Juan, is interested in studying business. She said she doesn't see the harm in learning about other cultures. Quote, there are things you wouldn't really think of unless you're aware of them when it comes to diversity, Juan said. I don't think it's a bad thing to make yourself aware of those situations, especially in a college setting where you see so much diversity. People have been learning about other cultures in high school and in college, even in grade school, since forever. The idea is stop it with the discrimination. The conservative push against DEI is a national phenomenon. The Chronicle of Higher Education is tracking 40 bills in 22 states that would prohibit colleges from having diversity, equity, and inclusion offices or staff, ban mandatory diversity training, prohibit institutions from using diversity statements in hiring, and prohibit colleges from using race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national admissions in employment. Those are based on model legislation from the conservative Manhattan and Goldwater Institutes, which claim there are things state legislatures can do, quote, to reverse the illiberal takeover of higher education through DEI offices that, quote, stifle intellectual diversity, prevent equal opportunity, and exclude anyone who dissents from a rigid orthodoxy. The Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty sued the State of Higher Educational Aids Board, claiming a minority undergraduate retention program violates the Wisconsin Constitution by discriminating based on race, because the program provides aid to students from some minority groups and not others. Well, that is also discrimination. Quote, DEI in all the training materials and examples I have seen is race discrimination. Pure and simple. The U.S. Supreme Court's affirmative action ruling, Lennington said, applies well beyond college admissions. He said it also applies to DEI initiatives aiming to recruit more diverse faculty members, and DEI training exercises can amount to racial harassment. If you couldn't do it to an African American, you can't do it to a white person, Lennington said. So whatever the DEI training happens to be, you can basically tell whether it's illegal or unconstitutional by just flipping the script and doing it to the other group racially. Lennington says his law firm will sue over as many DEI programs as we possibly can. But whether overturning affirmative action and admissions means diversity programs are now illegal is an open question. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.